Brilliant. Good morning, everyone. It's Antoinette Daniel, and I'm here doing Clean Conscience Convos, and we've got our first guest of the year, Jamie Willcox from Clean Up Academy. Hi, Jamie.
Hey, how's it going? I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. And I think we met 2 or 3, no, 3, maybe even 4 years.
2021.
2021. So it's coming out of COVID. I think I'd started to see your presence increasing on Facebook for me. And I just really felt like, here's a guy that seems to know what he's talking about, knows how to grow a business, interesting backstory as well, which I'll leave you perhaps to talk about. And I think I've got something to learn from him. So I did a bit of work with Jamie. He's done a bit of work with my number 2, my COO. And our business has really benefited as a result of those conversations along the way. So I'm not going to take up too much of your time, Jamie. But yeah. So I want to kick off with the first question. Jamie, how did you get involved in cleaning or in the FM business?
Fell into it, which I think is what a lot of people tend to do. I was a teenager. I used to play a lot of tennis. I promise this is related. I used to play a lot of tennis. And at the local tennis club, my mum was on the committee. They needed a cleaner. My mum was like, yeah, we'll do it. So originally it was going to be my mum and my sister. But my sister was, I guess, 15 or 16 at the time, probably had other things she wanted to be doing, hanging out with friends, after school clubs, and it was probably a little bit of a battle to get her down there and do the cleaning once a week. So I basically got dragged along and I started doing the cleaning there. And that was the first thing. Then fast forward a few years, I needed some money, as most people do, and I started cleaning in a nursing home. I was playing in a band at the time, and it sounds glamorous. I promise it wasn't very glamorous at all. A lot of sleeping on floors, but you need money for flights and you need money to survive. So I needed a job that was a bit flexible, and I had some experience. So I started cleaning in a nursing home and kind of snowballed from there. And that's really how I got into it. So I started off as a cleaner for many years.
I totally relate. I mean, that's similar to my journey. Cleaning was a side hustle for me while I was building an anti-human trafficking charity, and it ticked that box for about 3 months, and then it snowballed from there. So, I totally hear you. For those people that don't know what Clean Up Academy is all about, can you maybe in a nutshell tell us what you and your business do and what you stand for?
It's on a very, very top level. It's coaching and mentorship is really what it is. Most people that are in cleaning are very good at either doing the cleaning themselves, delivering a great service, or they have a team of cleaners that are really good at delivering the cleaning and doing a really good service. Most people fall a little flat at the back end of the business: systems, processes, software, automation, structure, marketing, how to handle your finances, how to cash flow forecast, KPI tracking. These are the things that people go, oh my God, I have no idea how to do this stuff. It sounds really daunting. I don't know what to do. I don't know when to do it either. Like, when am I supposed to do these things? So Clean Up Academy really is a framework to follow. We split that kind of the life cycle of a cleaning company into 4 stages of growth, which helps you to focus on the most important things at the right time, because there's so much stuff out there. And knowing, like I said, not only what do you do, but when do you do those things? That's really key. And a lot of people really struggle with that. So it's coaching and mentorship, helping people to grow their businesses, giving them as much confidence in the back end of the business as they are with delivering the cleaning itself.
Amazing. And I can attest to that, folks. So if you're looking for a coach or a mentor, someone that can help your business move into the next phase, like, for sure, tried and tested testimonial. Jamie and his team are go-to people. So Jamie, I don't know if people ask you this all the time, but can you maybe tell us what the top 2 or 3 challenges are that businesses that you're working with face in terms of growth in particular? And how do you help them address that?
What a question. The first one is bottlenecks. Very often what happens is the cleaning company owner is the bottleneck. Either the bottleneck in terms of their own time, which is often the case. It's where they utilize their time and where they spend their time. And often they end up doing what I would consider to be £10 tasks. Inflation's ruined that a little bit. It's not really £10 anymore, but we'll still go with £10. But they end up doing very menial tasks they don't need to be doing, and that's really bottlenecking the growth. So that's one of the main things. Second thing is, like I said, it's knowing not just what to do, but when to do it. For the stage of growth that you're at, for the revenue you're doing at the moment, for the size of your team, like, what's the immediate big thing that you need to do to get to the next stage of growth? So often it's having some sort of pathway and understanding of the trajectory of what it looks like to grow a business up to 7 figures and beyond. What stages do you go through? What happens when? And how do I traverse those huge pitfalls that inevitably happen along the way? The third one, I guess, is, yeah, again, something I kind of mentioned just now, but it's having the confidence in the back end of the business. It's understanding what systems are. And when I say systems, a lot of people think software, and that can be true, but they're not mutually exclusive. Like, systems are processes. It's how do you get consistent results in the business? What's the step-by-step thing that you do that gets consistent results? And for most people, their systems and processes are in their head. And being able to get those out, get them documented, get training in place for people, getting resources so that the team know where to find things, especially as you scale and grow. Those are things I come up against a lot. I think once you get the bottlenecks out of the way and you help people to focus on where to spend their time and what to spend it on, and give them the skills and the kind of the resources, the training to get those key things in place that they need, those really strong foundations for growth, you see some incredible transformations, because most people are hustling really hard, doing a really good job in an industry that's low margin, really tough, and they usually just kind of need winding up and pointing in a direction and kind of and set off, and that's usually what I come up against. Those are the main things.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Jamie. And again, I'm 13 years into my business, and it's a cycle that you go around each time, because you kind of master one thing, you cruise along on that, and then you hit another growth point, and actually then you need to review that again.
Yeah, and I'm mindful that what I'm saying is nice sound bites, and that I'm making it sound incredibly simple. Hey, if you come into Cleanup Academy and you follow my 5-step program, you're going to have a 7-figure cleaning business in no time. It's not that, by the way. And I'm not claiming that I've got the answers to every single problem that arises. Every industry is ever changing. New problems come up. And kind of as a community, as an industry, you kind of figure them out at the same time together. The benefit, I guess, of what I do is I'm working with a lot of cleaning companies all the time. So I'm seeing the industry from kind of a different perspective. When I was running Gleam based in Bristol in the UK, I was, what you do, and you think what you do is good, but you don't know for sure, because you don't really know that many other companies, or some people, especially at that time, we're talking, I guess 2016, 2017, they were very guarded. People didn't want to share their secrets. I would contact companies from up north and say, hey, how are you doing your recruitment? They're like, we can't tell you this. I'm like, you're in Liverpool. I'm not coming to Liverpool anytime soon. What are you talking about? Let's help each other. But people didn't really want to talk about it too much. Having a finger kind of on the pulse of the industry and seeing what lots of people are doing is a really interesting perspective that I never had before. Cleaning is not easy. It is not an easy business. However, I do think it's a simple business. When you boil it down to its constituent parts, it is simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. It's very difficult to do well, but there is a simplicity to it as a business, which is what I think draws a lot of people to it. Low barrier to entry, which is great. It means that you don't need a lot of money to get set up and get started. You can start off doing it yourself, and it can kind of snowball, and it teaches you a lot of fundamental things. So I know I'm making it sound like I've got all the answers and it's incredibly simple. It is simple, doesn't mean it's easy, and it is ever changing. So just wanted to put that in there.
I love that. It's simple, but there's a complexity to it. I think that's really true. And it's, again, important for people to think through in their business journey growth. So I know for us, the last 4 years have been tough. Coming out of COVID, where everybody kept saying, everyone needs a cleaner, cleaning's going to be great, cleaning's going to boom. Followed by Brexit, cost of living crisis. It's been tough for us. And I wonder if you can speak into the impact over the last 4 years, particularly for businesses and their acquisition of clients.
It's been really strange. I think COVID skewed time in a way that you look back since 2020. It's 2025 now, which is ludicrous, because we said before about we first spoke in 2021, which that doesn't sound right to me. I know it is right, but that just sounds like it's gone like that. It skewed time in a strange way. And I think it's also it's been an odd time for cleaning. There was a lot of support for key workers. Cleaners were still going in, doing everything. There probably wasn't a lot of acknowledgement for cleaners, honestly, where there should have been. There was a lot of acknowledgement of the NHS, rightly so, of course, but a huge amount of getting things back up and running was the cleaning industry, and being able to have people that were willing to risk their health and also just risk the unknown at the time. Before the vaccines came out, before people really knew what was happening, people were still going in and just doing it. And we were all figuring it out at the same time. We had no idea what PPE to use. People were fogging. They were making loads of money from fogging. A lot of those kind of cowboy fogging companies have fallen by the wayside, which is probably a good thing. But there was this sentiment, as you said, that cleaning would become this incredibly important thing. And it kind of was for a little bit, but actually what I saw, the immediate impact was that companies didn't have money. So they started reducing the cleaning hours in a time where they probably shouldn't have been. And for people that were maybe self-employed, they couldn't afford to have cleaners at their home anymore. People were maybe furloughed, maybe they got full pay, maybe they didn't, maybe they got part pay. They couldn't afford to have cleaners anymore. And actually what happened for a long time was it felt as though cleaning should have been in a better spot than it was. And it just wasn't. People just weren't as interested. And then by the time COVID died down and everyone decided they were fed up with it, there was no appreciation for cleaners. There was no more cleaning happening than before. And I think fundamentally, it's made no difference to how people view cleaning in the long term. Sounds very negative, but that's my honest opinion. And that's what I've been seeing. I don't think it's really made any difference whatsoever. I think there are maybe some industries where cleaning's become a little bit more important, and probably to some individuals too. You probably get some individuals where you see some people still wearing masks sometimes if they're unwell or if they're vulnerable. For those people, I'd imagine cleaning is more important than it used to be. But I think across the board, I don't see that there's been a big change in regards to how cleaning has been viewed off the back of COVID. And I think a lot of people thought there would be. So there's a little bit of disappointment. In regards to winning clients, I think there was that immediate drop off, especially for commercial, where you didn't really get an increase in hours. There was actually a big reduction in commercial hours for a lot of people. You did have some people making some money pretty quickly with things like fogging and sanitizing and deep cleaning, which was all kind of nonsense, honestly, because you go in and fog it and then somebody would go in and it's like it needs to be fogged again anyway. The lingering effects, I think, are actually probably a myriad of different things, and the things you mentioned. I think it's the impact of having COVID, then Brexit happened, then we had cost of living crisis. We had a lot of recruitment problems off the back of COVID, more so than anything, I think, because you had a lot of people during COVID that probably left the UK and returned home. And then you had a lot of people that were forced to return home or couldn't come back to the UK. And I think it's had a massive detrimental impact on recruitment and the availability of cleaners. I think that's what I've seen has been a problem for the most part. I think acquisition of clients now, I would imagine that it's probably similar to how it was before COVID at this point. I think it did make an impact for a while. I think things have probably got back to roughly the same is my perception of it. But it's been just... it's been one thing after another for the cleaning industry, and it's been just hammered and hammered, and it's really exhausting if you're operating a cleaning business. You've also there are now lots of employment law and HR changes that are coming through. The Labour government's got a huge emphasis on employee rights, which I don't think is the wrong approach. But what's happened is it's been tough for businesses again.
Yes.
And then there's been the national insurance increase. I'm not an economist of any kind, don't pretend to be. But what it's meant is, whether that's the right decision, wrong decision, it's not for me to say, but what it's meant is that it's been really tough on cleaning businesses. And it just feels like cleaning businesses have been hammered for quite a long time. Margins are already low. Perception of cleaning is still low. People perceive it as a pretty unskilled job where you shouldn't be charging 22, 23, 24, 25 pounds an hour. But the reality is that with all these changes, with how tough recruitment is, with how much you have to pay cleaners, your costs of goods sold are going to be somewhere in the region of 16 to 17 pounds, depending on how much you pay your staff. So in order to make any sort of decent margin, you have to be charging those numbers. But with that, there's a lot of competition, as there always is. And then you have to make sure that not only are you delivering a really good service, but you have really good branding and positioning, and your pitch is good, and your follow-up is good, and you're supposed to be good at all of these things simultaneously. When really you're like, I'm just trying to make a living. I'm just trying to make a living being a cleaner, please. So I think it's just been, there's been a lot of bombardment of the cleaning industry.
Agreed. And our business has quite a lot of support in terms of advisors and mentors. I just don't know how the average cleaning business is navigating their way through some of these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Challenging. And I think I just want to say something for people that are listening out there, because you mentioned that recruitment is hard. And I think that there could be mixed messages out there, in that people are saying there's lots of unemployed people, UK nationals, they could clean. But the reality is, in the cleaning industry, particularly in London, it's made up of around 55% migrants. And outside of it, or nationally, I think it's something like 27%. Don't 100% quote me on these, but I know it's in the 50s in London and in the 20s outside of London. And what that means is that when there's a shortage of migrant workers in particular, it really has a knock-on effect, particularly in service-based industries like cleaning. And yes, we have a large unemployed base in our UK nationals. But again, the reality is that we're finding in the cleaning industry is that they don't really want to clean.
That's one of the tough things. And minimum wage has crept up so much over the past few years. There's a lot of other options. Cleaning's a really tough job.
Yeah.
Cleaning I think cleaning works best when it's supplementary to something else happening in someone's life, whether that's another job, whether that's working around other commitments, maybe it's child commitments, maybe it's caring for a relative. Cleaning is a great profession for somebody to be in when it enables them to do something else in their life that they need to do, when it gives them the flexibility. And for a long time, I've seen that there's a lot of people that just, again, and cleaning has got this stigma, whether it's clients, whether it's cleaner, like it still has. At Gleam, we changed our tagline to "Proud to Clean," and it was an intentional sort of like, yeah, we should be like, we feel like there's just all this stigma out there about the cleaning industry, and it's like everything you see gets cleaned. You look out the window, everything you see gets cleaned. What would happen if it didn't? But there's still this stigma. So I think for a lot of people, they feel that, and they would probably, maybe there's not a lot of pride in telling someone that you're a cleaner. I think that there should be. But I don't. I think I used to get this when I was cleaning and caring, because I was working at the nursing home, and I kind of did a bit of both. And I tell people, if I said I'm a cleaner, they'd be like, "Oh, I'm just a cleaner."
Yes.
I hate just a cleaner. Shut up.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
If you tell people you're a carer, they're like, "Oh, I couldn't do what you do. I've got so much respect for you."
Yes.
And by the way, people should have that stance when it comes to caring, but they should probably also have it when it comes to cleaning. And it wasn't the fact that they said it about caring and not clean. It was the juxtaposition between the two. Just a cleaner versus like, wow, I couldn't do what you do. It's, hey, they're both really tough in their own way.
Agreed. Couldn't agree more. I kind of want to back you into a corner again, as somebody that has oversight. So if you could put a number on what hourly rate people should be charging for a commercial clean for the good of the whole industry, where would you pitch your number?
Okay. I'm going to give you a little bit of a cop-out answer, then I'll give you a real one. So
Okay.
the cop-out answer is as high as possible.
Yeah.
My stance is this: aim for at least 30% gross profit. Hopefully more, but at least 30%. That's going to be dependent on a number of factors. Dependent on the rate that you pay your staff, of course, is a huge factor. And then whether you've got cleaners that are kind of over that threshold for national insurance, for pension, which, now with the change, there'll be a lot of people that are. So my advice generally to people is, you should know what your costs of goods sold are, right? To work out your gross profit margin. Your gross profit is the amount that you invoice for minus the direct costs that are associated with the cleaning, the things that you have to pay for to deliver the service, not software and anything else, or Cleanup Academy, nothing like that, right? Just those things. In terms of what that number is likely to be, I think people expect that you can charge more for commercial than domestic. And I don't often find that to be the case. It depends on a number of factors. It depends on location, depends on the type of industry that you're working with, and it also depends on the size of the contract. Very often, if it's 2 hours a week, you can charge way more per hour than you could if it was 30 hours a week. And that's also to do with the fact that as you increase the number of hours, bigger companies take notice, more competition, drive down the price because they have economy of scale. I would say you should be charging probably at least £21 an hour. If I had to, if you're like, tell me a number, Jamie, go with £21 an hour. But it will vary depending on the size of the contract. Again, if it's a contract 2 to 4 hours a week, charge way more than that. In 6 years ago, we were charging the 2 hour minimum £40. For a 2 hour office clean that probably took us 45 minutes, and it was like, hey, that's expensive. It's like, yeah, we're really good. And also, if you can get a cheaper quote somewhere else, feel free to go with it. We're not, it's up to you if you want to. But ultimately, people that are 2 hours a week in a small office probably don't have that many options. A lot of people just don't want that sort of contract. Whereas if you're going to go pitch for a 100-hour co-working space, you're going to have to like drop your rate, but you'll compensate in terms of volume. You'll have more actual profit, more volume of profit, but a smaller margin. So say 21. Say something like that. Some people are going to operate a little bit lower, and I've got clients. Someone came, I won't name names, but someone came to Clinic Academy about a year ago, and their gross margins around 20%. I was like, this is way too low. So we did a lot of work getting them up, and now they're kind of 35%. A huge difference. And this company, they're doing over 1,000 commercial hours a week, so a decent sized company. But managed to get those hours up, and that'll be dependent on size. But yeah, I'd say 21, let's say.
Okay, and then obviously there's regional differences as well. So
London, and in London, like more, London more. If you're up in Sunderland, less, probably. It does vary, and that like it's a difficult question to pin down. But let's go with 21.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that. So as you know, we're real advocates of the real living wage, and that operatives, workers should be receiving that. They've just announced that it's going up. I should know this, but because we pay above, so I've only got what our figure is in my head. I want to say it's 14.25. It's not. I can't believe I've forgotten that. Just that I know we pay above. So
no, you pay above already, so that's good.
We do. But in light of that, if we could get everybody on a real living wage across the industry, what do you think the benefits would be to the industry, to a company, and what might some of the challenges be, particularly when submitting tenders?
Okay, the challenge is going to be getting people to think that cleaners are worth that much. That's the very first thing, and I hate that that's how I feel, but that is how I feel. Trying to get companies to recognize that cleaning is worth that much money per hour, I think, is a really difficult sell. The benefit is if you get companies that do believe that, generally speaking, they will experience a better quality service. Because what you'll have is you'll have cleaners that feel more valued. And if they feel valued and they feel important, they will do a better job. And that creates a positive feedback loop because they will get more positive feedback and they will keep doing a better job, so on and so forth. You'll get companies that actually have more money that can invest into things like software for time tracking. You can also have better communication, I guess, because maybe you can afford another admin assistant. Maybe you can have more audits happening, more quality control because that supervisor isn't quite a stretch, so you can afford another one. You have companies that are able to reinvest back into the service delivery and deliver it at a higher level. That's what would happen. But people would have to pay enough on top of that because if, let's, what do you say, the 14.25, let's say, right? We didn't know what it was.
13.85, I've looked it up with. I got it.
Is that in London or is that outside
London? London, 12.60 outside of London.
Okay, so either way, right? Like, let's say it's 12.60 outside London then. So again, we have to consider that we've got holiday, 12.07%. We've got pension. We've got national insurance contributions, right? There's a lot of extra stuff that goes on top of an hourly rate. It's not just that actual hourly rate that someone is being paid. It's everything else that it costs you as an employer to employ that person to do the cleaning. So you have to then look to put a 30% markup on somebody's gross pay. That's how we're getting into this 21, 22, 23 pounds an hour sort of range for commercial now. And if people pay that, if you're a company listening to this thinking, why should I pay my commercial cleaners more? Because you will get a better service. All of the things that you crave as a customer, consistency, reliability, getting things done out mind, having great communication, few errors, operating in the background, all of those things are possible when you pay your cleaners appropriately. If you're going to skimp on paying your cleaners, what do you expect them to do? They're going to be paying minimum wage, which means they can't reward their cleaners appropriately, which means people are going to feel like, I'm on minimum wage. Why should I try? Why should I care? Which is fair because there's nobody there monitoring them. They're just like, if you're going to pay me minimum wage, then I'll do a minimum wage job. Really is like, that's the approach and that's the mindset. And I think that that's a totally appropriate way to think about it because cleaning is an incredibly difficult job. This should be rewarded appropriately. So if you're a company that feels that way, I think have a look at your budget. Put a little bit more into it. you'll get a lot more in return, and you will also have fewer headaches. You'll have less stress dealing with the company, and you won't have to keep switching. If you're a company that's been switching cleaning companies trying to find the right one, but you're not willing to pay a little bit more, you're the problem.
Mm.
Respectfully, you're the problem.
All right, we're getting into the home stretch. So a few quick fire questions for you.
Yeah.
What do you think your greatest challenge to date has been?
My greatest challenge to date. Confidence. Yeah, confidence, I think. Self-belief. Yeah, imposter syndrome, all of that stuff. You know, it's I've had an interesting kind of foray into the cleaning industry. Came in as a cleaner at the tennis club, working at the nursing home, um, trying to make some big changes there. They were using the same 2 cloths for the entire nursing home, every single toilet and commode. Absolutely disgusting. Didn't know anything about cleaning, so went to the matron and was like, "I don't think this is right." That got me looking into CQC, environmental health, and kind of cleaning guidelines and standards, and managed to get some changes made there. Old guard really hated it. That job ended really badly, and ended up going through an employment tribunal with that employer. Moved to the work at Gleam as a supervisor, worked my way up to being the managing director, ran the business for a while. Wasn't my company. I don't know if many people know that, but that's the story. That is true. And then left that, wanted to get into coaching, joined with a business coach, got fired after about 3 or 4 months, and then was like, I don't know what to do now. So started tennis coaching again for a while. Pandemic hit, and I was like, time to do this business coaching thing. And here I am, I don't know, 5 years later. Life is weird, right? I constantly have imposter syndrome about, am I good enough at this? Have I done it enough? You know, was I Gleam long enough? Am I on top of things enough? Am I a good enough coach? Am I good enough at this? Am I good enough at that? I think that's the biggest challenge. And I don't have any clear answers for that, by the way. That's an ongoing thing. That's therapy, and that's being diagnosed with ADHD, and you know, there's a lot of factors to it. But I think if anyone's feeling the same way that I am, just do your best. Like, that's what I keep trying to tell myself. I'm like, look, I'm doing the best I can. If I put the effort in, if I'm trying, if I genuinely care about my clients and I really want them to succeed, and I just give them the time. Do I mess up sometimes? Of course, right? Could I do things better? Yeah, absolutely. But I also recognize that being really hard on myself doesn't make things easier. It makes things considerably harder. But that's the biggest challenge. And that's not a, hey, I overcame it and now I'm going to sell you my confidence program. Clean up your confidence. Join my coaching program. That's an ongoing thing that I'm dealing with, and I think most people are dealing with. I think business is incredibly tough. You have good years, you have bad years, you have bad personal years. We spoke about this a little bit before we jumped on, and how that can impact business. And it's just life. Life's tough. So biggest challenge, I think, yeah, just ongoing confidence. And I appreciate that I come across as a very confident person. I think I'm very good at projecting that. It might be to do with the ADHD and masking and that sort of stuff. Always been good at just talking, gift of the gab, as my mum would say. But yeah, confidence, just ongoing. Yeah, working on it though.
That's a really beautiful answer. Thank you for your honesty. I really appreciate that, because I think that's the reality for the majority of business owners out there. It doesn't matter what your industry or your craft is. So thank you for sharing that. What do you love about what you do?
The light bulb moment. Well, I think I felt this for such a long time. This kind of goes back to the last answer, actually. I thought I was stupid. For so many years, I thought I was stupid, right? I don't process information very well. If someone gives me verbal instructions, I just forget them immediately. Memory retention is not very good. All things I'm learning are to do with ADHD. I had absolutely no idea that was what it was. Didn't do particularly well at school. Struggled academically. I middle of the pack, you know, constantly told James got loads of potential, but he never works hard enough. He's not going to realize it. He's not, you know. So I felt like I was stupid, and I felt like I just couldn't learn things. I felt like it was just, you know, it was beyond me. It was beyond my capabilities. And I see that there's a lot of people that feel that same way. It took me a long time to recognize, hey, actually, I can do anything. I can do anything I want to do. I'll get there. It might take me longer. I might have to do it in a really weird way, or I'll just obsessively do it for 3 months or 4 months, 6 months, a year, whatever it happens to be. But I'll get there. I'll do it. But I think there's a lot of people that probably don't have a growth mindset. It's more troubling than that. Like, it's not just about not having a growth mindset. It's about having just severe limiting beliefs about what they're capable of. I get people onto sales calls and start talking about, using software and automation, and you can just see immediately they're like, no, it's not as scary as it sounds. I promise. They're like, I'm not very good with computers. I'm like, you don't need to be. Like, you don't need to be. I promise you, it's you're very capable of doing this. So when I see people that learn things that they don't think that they were able to learn, and do things that they didn't think they'd be able to do, and grasp something they didn't think they'd be able to grasp, and be able to implement that in their business and see real results, that's what I love. I love people changing their kind of perception about what they think they're capable of. I love people being like, I've got all this stuff. I have these contracts. I don't know how this happened. I can't believe I've been able to do this. I love that, because that's how I felt when I started coaching. I had no idea what was going to happen. I didn't know that this was going to be my livelihood for 5 years. I bought the property that, I'm not to brag, I don't mean it this way, but like, I didn't have any money. I sold a guitar at the start of lockdown because I was broke, and my now wife was buying us vegan sausages as a treat because I couldn't afford anything. Like, I bought this property with the money that I've earned and created through the coaching business. It's ridiculous. Like, what? But that's how I felt. I was like, no, I felt like I was stupid. I felt like I couldn't do it. So I love it when people have that moment of like, no, I can do this. Like, yeah, you can. You absolutely can do this. I feel like, oh, I can do this. Anyone could do this. It's like we're all in this again. Business is tough. We're all in this together, just trying to figure it out, right? And we spoke about this a little bit off. I know I'm going off on a tangent, and we're probably going long, but you know what you were getting into when you invited me. When you see this on LinkedIn, right, where people, everything's great, and they've all had amazing years and crushing it, and new goals, and last year was a record year. It's just not real. It's one side of the story. And I think when you get, and I know because I see a lot of these people, I'm like, I know the other side of that story, and it's not entirely true. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't present, the good things that have happened. It's not that. But I think that what it does on a broader scale is it paints this picture for people that are struggling, that everyone else is succeeding except for them. And that is just not true. Everyone else is finding it tough. Everyone else is just trying to figure it out. Everyone else is just trying to get on top of things, and everyone's to-do list is out of whack, and nobody's on top of all their emails, and everyone feels bad that they've forgotten something that happened, or they're not in touch with their friend when they should have been, or this is just human existence. And I think don't lose sight of that when you're seeing that everyone else is succeeding. They're not. It's social media. People are putting their best foot forward. Yeah.
Word, like that in and of itself is going to be a short, because I think it's so important.
I need to hear it too. It's for me as much as anyone else listening, I promise.
This has been great. I've got one last question, and because it's me, I always like to ask a curveball question that you maybe won't have anticipated. And I'm going to ask each guest as well to give a question for the next guest that will be blind. So we'll do that off camera. But here's my curveball question for you. So if you were given the chance to explore either the ocean or space, which one would you choose and why? Oh, there was no thinking about that.
Yeah, no, the ocean is terrifying. One, I don't like swimming. I don't like deep water. The ocean is really scary. You could drown in there. And I'm not saying that you would survive in space, right? But space is very exciting. I'm a huge space nerd. Huge space nerd. Absolutely love it. I spend so much of my time consuming astronomy content, not astrology, by the way, but nothing wrong with that. But astronomy content, space content. So much time. I went to a speaking thing, like an event in Bristol about the science of the multiverse. Went to see Brian Cox last year. That was fascinating. Brian Cox is incredible. If anyone's interested in space, you know who Brian Cox is, I'm sure. He's the guy that's Northern, and he was in a band as well. Really, really strange. But he talks about space. He explains things in just such an incredible way. Takes these incredibly complex, often mathematical equations and all sorts of stuff, and breaks it down to very, very simple things. One of the things that I'm the most upset about the finality, I guess, the finite. What finite? That's not a word. How finite, let's go with that, my life is that I'll never get to see how far humans get off this planet and see what happens in the future, see how much we can actually explore, see where that takes us. Like, that's really sad for me, is that, like, I'm 35. Like, I'm not going to be here in 100 years' time, maybe not even 50 years' time, right? So it's like, hurry up, get up there, go do something. You know, I want to see what happens next, and I'm not going to get to see that. So for sure, space. But
Okay, I
if
wasn't
if
expecting
I
that.
can pick neither of them, I like my house. I'd probably just stay here, and I probably wouldn't go up into space either. But I'd love to watch somebody from my TV go up into space.
Oh, this has just been a delightful conversation. It just reminds me why I connected with you before.
Yeah,
All of this is exactly, for anyone watching, this is exactly how Jamie is. Whenever you interact with him, it's an
yeah.
absolute joy.
If
How
you
would
like
people?
it, then join Cleanup Academy. If this has turned you off completely, run for the hills. It's no different, I promise.
How would people connect with you, Jamie?
Um, LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a really good shout. Connect me on LinkedIn. I'm on there a lot. Apart from that, you'll find me on Facebook too. Shoot me a message. If you go onto cleanupacademy.com, you can go have a look at all the information up there. You can also, I'm pretty sure you can WhatsApp me from there as well. So just jump on
You
there.
can, certainly from your
Yeah.
website. Anyway, I was quite impressed by that.
Yeah. Go have a look at the testimonials. They're all real. They're all nonsense conversations like this. And we talk about how people have done in Cleanup Academy as well. Yeah, that's the best way to connect with me.
Fantastic. And any posts that come out from us or any of the shorts that we produce later on in the month, I'll have all of Jamie's contacts down below in that as well. Definitely, if you're a cleaning business owner, get in touch with him. He's not scary. He's got a font of wisdom. It's tried and tested. He's done it before. He's been where you are. He's a general good guy. Jamie, thank you so much for your time today.
Do you want me to come up with a question? I just realised.
We'll go off camera and we'll do that. So yeah, we've got this awkward 2 minutes while we go off camera. So we're going to say bye, everyone, and see you on the other side.
Thanks, Antoinette.